The brothers, they all got together one night in a basement. The brothers, they all got together one night in a basement and they said, we got to find a new way.
What is going on, Raza? This is another episode of Raza Stand Podcast, episode number 6. And we're coming at you with a new topic of today. I go by Brown, and I am your host. And we're going to go into it with this.
All right, folks, this is Flo. This is one of probably one of the most anticipated topics that we have been looking forward to. You know, I know that you're very passionate about this, so it's really going to be something that is going to be heavy. Might get uncomfortable for the viewers or even for us, but you know what? These pláticas, like you say, are very necessary. So we got to get into the topic of raza and black relations, right? So where it stands now. Where it started, right? How it's fluctuated over the years, how we relate to it, our own experiences with that. So it's gonna get heavy today, man. You know, and some of the stuff that we might say might be offensive, might but all with good intent, though. I mean, everything we're gonna say is to teach people and to really get into the nitty gritty because some of this shit needs to be talked about. And there's no beating around the bush on how we're gonna go about this shit. So, yeah, man, I'm really pumped up about this. Yeah, man. So before I get into the history, I want to know why you really feel passionate about this specific topic.
Yeah. So raza and black relations, man. There's a history between raza and black people. And it goes back to the the old days, the traditional, living in Mexico and all that. And actually, when this was Mexico before, to this day, there's actually still, I don't know if you want to call them like tribes or whatnot, but there's still communities in Mexico where blacks intermix with Mexicans. Like there's like communities of black people in Mexico. So that's to tell you that we are kind of one and the same, in some ways, you know what I mean? And that's why we feel, I mean, at least I feel that connection between blacks and Latinos, because, even if you go to the East Coast, they have, Cubans that mix with they have Afro Cubanos, Afro, Afro Puerto Ricans, and they, it's like one and the same. So it's like, so that because of that, I feel that we have more of a essence with them, and vice versa. They have the same connection with us, So it's like, because of that, I feel that when people start saying like, well, fuck black people, then if they don't want to back us up, then fuck them. And it'll be like saying, then fuck us. Because we're pretty much the same people. We went through the same struggles. I mean, we both, not as much, but we both got lynched by oppressors. We both were, enslaved by oppressors, and we were currently being enslaved in the new form of slavery for us, like, as Latinos. Like, they bring us in as cheap labor, and then they kick us out whenever the fuck they feel like it. So it's same shit. They're fucking beating us up in many different forms, which is another form of slavery. And plus, they're caging us in as animals. So I mean, that's pretty much through history we've shared that commonality of being like treated less than, being treated like animals and shit. And that's what we share. You know what I mean? So that's why I feel so so passionate about talking about that we need to find a way to stay united because we've been united through history, but because of X and Y reasons, and I always say that it's the, and I've had talks with other people when I mention this, that I say is like the, it's always a new generation that wants to let go of things that was. They want to make it into things that are, they want to make it become something else or evolve into something else. And they want to let go of certain ties to certain people and stuff like that. Which I mean, I don't know. I mean, I still say that let's teach our young to have inclusion with black people as Latinos, because I mean, if think about it this way, if the oppressor starts bringing the same system that they had back in the day, which is like more, like basically don't like don't mind the colored people, what I mean, no colors allowed, no, this, start bringing that shit back in, we're all gonna be in the same fucking boat, us and black people. So we're gonna be treated the same. So let's fucking act as the same. Let's be a unit and fight against, fight against, I guess you could say, quote quote, the system, and be smarter than that. Because I mean, unity always fucking triumphs over anything. You know what I mean? So that's always the case.
Yeah, and I think, thank you for sharing that because I mean, uh, for me, the connection between me and black people, uh, does go very far too. Uh, one part of it is unknowingly, right? The other part is more be more aware of it, right? So when I think about the first connection that I really made, right, with with black culture, I guess you can say that is really as far as back as um, elementary, you know,
Mm.
and I had a really good history teacher in elementary, and that's the reason why I got into history and why I love history. I remember seeing Roots in fifth grade. I don't know if you ever saw
Mm.
Roots, you know?
I actually seen parts of it. That's a long
Yeah,
ass movie though. It's like
yeah, it
it
is.
has like many parts on.
It was like it was a series. It was kind of like a novela in a way,
Mm.
But seeing that shit in fifth grade, I mean, that made an impact on me.
Mm.
Like seeing how the you know institution of slavery really affected black people, in the Americas. Um, so that's where it really started, and then obviously through hip hop, that's a huge connection, which we're gonna get more into in another episode. But the part that I didn't know for a very long time, um, was the actual like lineage, right? And for me, I remember my mom growing up always told us that she had black blood, right?
Mm.
And I didn't really know what that meant at a very young age. I didn't really know what she was talking about, and I don't even
Mm.
think she really knew either. But I mean, she talked about how her blood type, right? Her actual blood type was very common with black people, right? And we didn't have her blood type, right? But if she needed to have a transfusion, she would have to probably get it from a black person. So
Okay, sure.
yeah. Uh, so
What is that type? What is that common type for
you
black
know
people?
what? I don't know the exact name of it, but she would tell me that that's the blood type that I don't even know my own blood type, to be honest,
Yeah,
but
I don't know mine either.
but I mean every time that she would give birth, the blood that she would lose was you know how that goes, you know what I mean, like lose a lot of blood or whatever.
Yeah.
So she had to get injections before every time she gave birth or after she gave birth. I forgot
Okay.
which one it was, but because of like uh yeah, because of that. But just to get into the history, right? Because I get more into that in a minute. But just to get into the history, you brought up a little bit about the history about black people and really you know one of our other ancestors and native peoples, right? How really the contact between blacks or Africans um, and indigenous people, came uh, right after the you know, I guess the conquest of the Caribbean, right? And then afterwards, the conquest of Mexico Tenochtitlan, which is present day Mexico City, right?
Mm.
And one of the conquerors was actually an African conqueror, right? Also known as a Moor, right? So he came with the original conquistadores. He came with them, and his name was Juan Garrido. So
Mm-hmm.
the right away, black people, were used to conquer the native people on this side, right? So that rivalry began right away. If we really want to get into that, right, it began right away with that, um, and it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there because originally, and I don't know if you knew this, but originally when the the Spanish, and really the Spanish, when they came here, they tried to enslave the native peoples, right? They did for a while, but because of the labor they were doing, I mean, a lot of them just couldn't take it, and the smallpox, they died off, right? So the population declined dramatically because of that. So black people were brought in here because of that, because he wanted to replace the labor, right, that the native people were doing. So you talked about how we're still in a way kind of enslaved, but it really goes back to then, even back then, how
Mm-hmm.
it started with the natives, right? So the Spaniards created a caste system, right, that essentially had Spaniards and American-born Spaniards at the top, and then you had uh, blacks and natives at the very bottom, right? Um, but everyone in the system, right, the only way to really get out of it was to what they called limpieza de sangre, right, which meant that, and I'm pretty sure you heard the term too, like bettering the race, or
Mm-hmm.
marrying up, right? Uh, Marrying somebody whiter than you so you can kind of erase that native or black ancestry, right? So right away, again, blackness and really anti-indigenous attitudes began because of that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, to have black blood was almost like you didn't want that because it was associated with slavery, right? And indigenous blood was associated with, like, being conquered or just being less than. So people, developed these attitudes way back then, way back when the Spanish conquered us, and of course, it wasn't always like that. You had intermarriage, right? You had intermarriage with mestizos and mulattoes, right, or black people and indigenous people. So um, that's where I was talking about with my mom, right? How she would always talk about that. So that's really what she meant, because in my lineage there is African ancestry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know that until maybe, like, I want to say like 7 years ago, right? I took a DNA test and that came up. So all of the shit that my mom was saying was actually true, So I was taken aback by that, because I was like, man, like my mom knew some shit, and I took a trip to Mexico, and I found a picture of one of my great grandmothers, a great grandmothers, and she looked black and indigenous. Like her features are just very, very dark, and you know
Mm-hmm.
features of what you would see in a black person or a native person, right?
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see that, to make the story, come to life with that, right? But just to get more into that, into the caste system or whatever, um, you know, these attitudes, right, of anti-blackness and anti-indigenous attitudes, uh, you know, continued. And also, what the Spanish did too is they also used black people as overseers of indigenous
Mm-hmm.
labor, right? So the native peoples feared or hated also black people because of this, because they saw them as, oh, they're the ones doing the punishing, right? That the Spanish were trying to enforce, right? So it goes back and forth, and even during the what do you call it, the war for independence, there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like anti-blackness between, and anti-indigenous attitudes between both of these people. So it's like a love and hate relationship that goes way back to the conquest of Latin America, you know. So what are your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
on that?
So you said that they were blaming the blacks for the punishment that was being done to them?
Yeah, because a lot of the times they would, when they had indigenous labor, certain places where you still had a lot of indigenous population, they would use black people to be the overseers, basically to whip the native people, to make sure they were
Get them in
working.
order. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much keep them in order. Yeah.
Oh
So yeah,
shit. And
yeah.
it's kind of like the it's kind of like that. I guess that's not that same, but that part where in the whole slave trade and all that shit, when they would will use and brainwash some of the slaves to make them think that they're more important than other slaves and keep them like kind of like a right hand man to the slave master, and be like, and they will be the ones to okay, let me whip this one slave because he's not following instructions, and even some of the slaves would be like, fool, but you're a fucking slave too. What the fuck you doing? And he'll be like, nah, 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 nah. You know what I mean? So they feel like they're more above
Yeah.
the other slaves and shit, just because, slave master might give them fucking a piece of chicken or two more than the other slaves and shit. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he treats them a little bit more special. You know what I mean? Just to keep them brainwashed and thinking, okay, master likes me. Master, fucking, he's down. He's down for the barrio, and you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
no, but like, you know what I mean. But he's more like he gets to be brainwashed, I guess you could say. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So the same thing. You know what I mean.
Mhm.
And that type of brainwash, I don't know if psychologically they were up on game to do it on purpose, but I guess something in us through history has made it to where we kind of like we find a way to trick others to do the bidding for us in a way. You know what I mean? And like that, those mañas, those like la gente is mañosa enough to like come up with something like that, even if you're not never taught that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I guess just mañas, just trickeries of mankind, that we come up with things like that just to keep our agenda going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it before with the lobster mentality in one of your lives.
Yeah.
Raza has that mindset, and just going back to what you mentioned with certain masters keeping their slaves in check or whatever you want to call it. It was also done through colorism here in the States. Like the lighter skinned blacks were kept in the house, the darker skinned blacks were kept outside. So you also divided black people here in the States because of that. That's what they have, what they call team light skin and team dark skin, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, man, and that's what they did in Latin America too. The skin color, right? The colorism that really still exists in our communities, right? Was used to keep people in check, right? Because people knew that the only way to move up in society was to be basically to be lighter skin, right? So people will intentionally try to marry out of the culture, right? And then that's how we lost our native traditions. That's how we lost our black our blackness, really. Because I mean, even though I was able to trace that lineage, really most Mexicans have some type of African ancestry. They just don't
Yeah.
know it. It was lost through all the intermarrying, right? So it also depended on the region, right? Some places had more like Oaxaca, right, and Veracruz had more of that influence, but really it was all over Mexico, right? As a matter of fact, Mexico imported more slaves than the United States did.
Oh shit.
Yeah, the reason why we don't have the big population, like I said, is because they intermarried. In the U.S., you had a strict, okay, you cannot, they didn't here in Latin America. The only way to get out of that, if you were black too, to be out of slavery, was if you became a Christian or a Catholic, because the Spaniards didn't believe in enslaving other Christians. So that was another way to get out of it. And that's another way to lose again your culture and your religion, right, or whatever your values, your traditions. And in the United States, it didn't matter. Like if you were black, you're black, and that's it. So you pretty much
So
married, another person that was black.
so they imported into Mexico uh to be slaves, or just to sell them to the United States?
No. So you had different ports all over Latin America, right? So the port in Mexico was through Veracruz. So roughly about they estimate it's anywhere from 250,000 to 500,000 Africans were imported to Mexico, right? To what is now Mexico, and I think only, if I'm correct, 50,000 were imported to the U.S. What is now the U.S. The reason why this is directly from Africa, obviously, not from other places in the
Yeah.
Americas, but and again, in the United States, your small little population began to grow because they were all kept in the same place, as opposed to here. I'm sorry, as opposed to Latin America, they went everywhere and they were intermarrying with native people, with Spaniards. Uh, but in some places where that wasn't the case, right? So in the places where black folks were like, you know what, I'm not gonna do this, where they would escape, they would create their own communities. And as a matter of fact, the first free black community was in Mexico, right? In the early 1600s, I believe. Uh, and um, and also the ones that would also escape would join native peoples, kind of like in the U.S. when they joined the Seminoles, right?
Hmm.
Uh, they would join native communities, and that's why places like Oaxaca, like you said, the Costa Chica, and they were able to keep a lot of that African ancestry because they intermarried with them. But
Hmm.
it's very rare to find it now in Mexico, other than those little areas where it's like
Huh.
you have really uh, strong features that resemble blackness or whatever. But yeah,
So who was the masters then
where
in Mexico?
the Spaniards.
The Spaniards, huh?
Yeah, so they would come here and then they would receive what they call encomiendas, right? And the goal was that the king would give you a piece of land, and and depending on who was in that land, that's who you had ownership over, right? So in
Oh,
a lot of
shit.
places you had native people, and they were supposed to pay you. You were going to tax them, right? They would pay you in material, or maybe they would have to find gold for you. Um, and if it didn't, then there would be consequences, obviously, right? But the exchange was that, okay, you're gonna have these people, but you're supposed to protect them from other natives or from other people, and you're supposed to teach them the word of God. A lot of the
Mm.
times, these people just took advantage of them and just just basically enslaved them, and the encomiendas eventually became haciendas, and the haciendas really didn't go away up until the early 1900s. My great grandmother was born in hacienda,
Mm.
so that lineage goes way back to God knows when. I mean, the village that my parents are from was founded in 1545. So you can only fucking imagine how many people fucking live there and experience that horrible shit. I mean, like,
Yeah,
so yeah,
man,
yeah.
that's crazy. But
Mhm.
now when we talk about have, because look, the way I'm thinking is like if if I have really what the people that had power, what they're thinking is who can we take advantage of? And if there's already the como se llama, the indigenous people there, why didn't they? I'm pretty sure they did also, or at least considered having them as slaves.
Well, they did. They tried doing that,
They tried, right? Yeah.
but like I said, they died. Most of them could not handle the labor and also because of the smallpox, they couldn't handle the work. That's why they brought in Africans, because they're like, okay, well, they're used to these diseases. They're used to having. They saw them as stronger than native people, so they brought them in, and they pretty much worked them to
Mm,
death too. I mean, but for the most part, they were able to tolerate it.
dang.
Yeah.
Comes to show, bro, that has a lot to do with, I mean, when we talk about the music world, bro, you never hear like from any other ethnicity that there's some kind of a weird way someone died. I mean, besides fucking Jenny Rivera, but like you don't really hear like, oh shit, like it can be fucking Illuminati shit or something. You don't hear any of that from any other ethnicity but black people. And I started thinking, bro, like there's got to be something there that and I'm talking about the people that have that power, that have that fucking generation money, that that wealth,
Yeah.
they have so much knowledge, bro, that we will never fucking get a hold of. And I think they already know something that the regular folks don't know, of the power of black people, bro. And that what you said right there, bro, that they were able to withstand so much more than other people, and that's why they became slaves. That tells me a lot, bro. That tells me that they have something that they cultivated in their country that nowhere else was, no other race was able to get become that or evolve into that, but only them, because they live in that area. So they have that special something in their blood or in their DNA or something.
Well, I mean, it could be the fact that, yeah, that if you believe in the theory of evolution, I mean, original man came from Africa, so
Africa, yeah.
and Africa is very diverse. You have Northern Africa, you have Southern Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. Everyone is very different there. So, you know, they've been exposed to a lot of different things, like I said, diseases and all kinds of crap. So because of that, I think that played a role. And all the other people everywhere else, they were basically descendants of just one family or a couple of families, and that lineage, stayed
Mhm.
together. I guess if you want to compare it to like, like to other animals, I guess, like for example, dogs, like dogs that are, I guess, pure breeds, whatever, they have a lot more problems, right?
Mhm.
And when dogs are mixed, they have less problems. So, you know, humans that intermarried or had the same lineage had more problems, right? That's why like the people here in the Americas had no protection against smallpox. Like they had never been introduced to it. If the Spanish never come here, they could have pretty much evolved into a different species because they were
Mm,
so separated from the rest of the world, you know.
yeah.
But I mean, you're onto something. I mean, I think that played a role. Like just the fact that it was, you know, the original place of man. You know.
Yeah. Now, with that said, bro, with that said, I think like as for brown and black, bro, if we start to, and this is kind of controversial because of the whole thing that's going on right now with like the street vendors and all that shit, where when we talk about like
Yeah.
issues happening between the black and brown communities, when we talk about, some people try to compare like, because I mean I have black homies, and they, for some reason, when you talk to black people, they feel and they believe that we as Latinos are more united than they are. But when we talk to our people, we talk to Latinos, they're like, fuck no, we're not united.
We feel the
black,
opposite.
black people seem, yeah, black
Yeah.
people seem to be more united.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, then who the fuck, like, who, I mean, whose perspective can we like lean more towards? um that's what I'm saying, bro. Like when it comes to comparing and all that, I mean, by far, black people, and it's because of their what they've endured in America,
Mhm.
is why I believe that they have more organizations that kind of like have their back in terms of when something happens, they kind of like build up something quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they get a hold of people with like big platforms, and they kind of put that pressure, like, you gotta say something, you gotta say something. The Oprah stands up, and then fucking, Monto fucking, what's his name? Monto
Williams.
Williams
Yeah,
stands up
Monty
and says
Williams.
some
Yeah.
shit. You know what I mean? Fucking, all these people start saying something and shit, and it's because of their organizations. They have the NAACP. They have kinds of fucking organizations, bro, that are there for them in case of something brewing up against black people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't have none of that shit. What do we have? What the fuck do we have? Univision? What the fuck do they do for us? Like,
Maybe some promotes white Latinos, bro. They don't promote,
yeah. And
Latinos
then,
actually look like.
yeah, exactly. And then what's his name? Jorge Ramos. That that,
Um,
that fool don't do shit. Like, what the fuck
nah.
does he do? Nah, he, so like, what do we have? Who stands up for us?
And it's funny because
My
even when
question.
even when we didn't really talk about this. Like I don't remember really talking about it, but with the whole Chavez thing, I mean, like when he was
Oh
doing his thing, um, you said it. I think I don't know if you said it in one of the podcasts or if you told me just in private, but you talked about how he didn't want to be associated with uh with the radical movement of the students, right? So you
yeah.
had a leader like Cesar Chavez, if you want to call him that. He was like, I don't want to be fucking with everybody else. I'm only doing it for the farm workers. I'm not doing it for everybody else,
Yeah.
So he was very specific about that. And I would say that was probably the only time where I would say that we had some kind of unity, like we were moving
Mhm.
towards something, right? We were, I guess, you know, uh, kind of emulating the black movement, right, at the 50s and early 60s. Um, but yeah, man, I think there's a couple of factors. One is that, like you said, I mean, the white supremacy here in the United States, allowed for black unity to happen. And what I mean by that is that when you go to Africa, people don't see themselves as black. They see
Mm.
themselves as belonging to a specific group of people or language, country, right? So that didn't exist there because if it was, then they wouldn't have sold their own people to into slavery, right? Because I mean, a lot of the times it was empires that would capture people in war, and then they would sell them to whites, and that's how they would get the slaves, right? And here, when he brought them here, they were all from different nations, right? Spoke different languages, but they were all black in the eyes of the white man. So that allowed them to stick together, right? That wasn't they pretty much formed a new culture because of that, right? That encompasses blackness and Africanness and and you know being here in the States. I think the factors that don't allow us to unite as raza is one, all again going over all the different freaking terminology that we have for the brown Spanish speaking community. I mean, just the fact that people cannot agree on what to use. That's one reason why. The other reason is uh, we have the constant influx of immigrants. So every
Mm.
single generation, you have a new group of people, right? So let's say us, right? We might be all raza this, raza that, right? And we might be fucking with Chicanos or whatever, to try to push some shit. But and this is from my experience. I remember growing up when I was into certain movements or whatever. Like my dad was like, "Why the fuck are you involved in that? Like why are you wasting your time with that? Like you should be, you shouldn't be fucking with these radicals. You know, like he was like, I'm just trying to, I came to this country to give you a better life, and you're on the verge of fucking it up by doing a lot of these things you were doing. You know what I mean? So like I think that plays a huge role in that because we don't really get the backing from the immigrant community because, and I understand why, because I mean they don't come here to fuck shit up. They come here to fucking work
Yeah.
and do what they got to do. And when we're
Stay
born here,
quiet and yeah.
you know what I mean? We see a different perspective. We see, okay, well, the history. So
Mm.
we want to have some kind of unity, and we look up to black people in that sense because they have that,
Yeah.
and as long as we continue to have that influence, I don't think we're ever going to be united. And also the fact that we all come from different countries,
Yeah.
so
And that's the thing what I mentioned last time, bro. It would be a totally different situation, and they would be in so many. There will be so many blocks for Black people if the immigrants as we know them today were African and
yeah,
not Latinos. If it was because that's the main barricade that keeps us
yeah,
from advancing, bro.
it is.
Is the fact that there's so many coming over here and we don't know where they stand. We don't know whether they just don't give a fuck about movement for the raza as a whole, or they're just in for their own beneficial whatever, which for the most part it is. I mean, that's why they come over here because they're pretty much dying over there in Mexico.
Yeah,
So it's like they're coming over here to make a better to survive, you know what I mean? To
yeah,
survive basically. So they don't really it's not that they don't care about the movimiento of the gente, but it's just that they don't know any better. They just know that they just want to come over here and move silently, not be discovered, not be, you know what I mean? Just get their money, go back, and that's it. Happy ending and shit. But that's the thing. Where does that leave us when they come over here and then they what I mean? Some of them may do some shit and then we're back to square one with people talking shit that we're all a certain way because certain people fuck it
yeah,
up for us. You know what I mean? So it's like it goes back full circles, and that's gonna always happen because we're not all on the same page. And no,
yeah,
no matter what race is living and coming as immigrants, they're gonna have the same fucking problem. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. Yeah, and I think also it also depends on also the year too. I mean, like the earlier migrations were usually Mexican, then in the 70s and
Yeah.
80s, you got Guatemalans and Salvadorans, and now recently you have more Hondureños, coming over, and so that's another influx of different culture and really how that's playing. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's just so many different factors that don't allow us to I guess unite,
Yeah.
and um it's kind of sad in a way because I mean we can't really get shit moving, but at the same time, uh, I think now that I'm older, I mean I was all about that. Hey, we gotta get everybody on board, because if we don't, then we can't move shit together. But
Mhm.
Now it's like, okay, if you're down with it, get on board. But if you're not, you just get the fuck out of the way because you're getting in the
Yeah.
way of getting shit done. So because I mean, people who are coming here, like you said, they're dying or the literally escaping death. Like that's the last thing on their mind. Like they don't give a shit about
Yeah.
fucking no
I
movement.
don't
They want to
know. Yeah.
fucking eat, and I don't blame them for that. So I'm not gonna be like,
Mhm.
you motherfuckers, say you ain't doing shit for us. I mean, I get it. Like you can't really focus on that when your mind is okay. I gotta feed my kids and I gotta do what I gotta do. You know what I mean? But yeah, man.
And that's kind of why there isn't something like what organizations that Black people have, because that's a
Yep.
thing. Like, who are we gonna cater to? There's so many of us that have different, what I mean, we all have different, like, I guess they're citizens, they're non-citizens, they're, what I mean, shit,
Coconuts.
there's so many
Yeah.
different of us that, what I mean, and that's what I'm saying, like, who's it gonna cater to?
Yeah. You can't.
And that's why there isn't that, because
Yeah.
no one really came up with that solution yet.
Yeah. So we gotta find something else to do, or we gotta find another movement that really tries to. But then again, like you've talked about this many times, like you can't really be too inclusive because then again, you're not really standing for shit if you're
Yeah,
doing
there
that.
you
You know
go.
what I mean? Like
Yeah,
so you gotta focus on I think what's relevant to you and get those
yeah,
people on your program to to get shit going. But
yeah.
just to segue into the next topic, street and prison politics, and I think this is something that you and I could definitely relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how that has also played a role in, I would say, in this sense, really destroying the relationship between Raza and blacks. Uh, and really, just we were on the topic of immigrants. I think that also plays a huge role in anti-blackness when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to our communities, right? So, just to use an example, when my dad came here to the states, he had a number of run-ins with black people who would try to assault him or try to jack his shit. You know what I mean? So that shaped how he viewed black people. I mean, like, so I understand why he had that mindset. And for a lot of immigrants, as we're seeing now, right, that tends to be the case. I mean, uh, I don't think it's necessarily a hate crime. I think it's like you said earlier in the beginning of the podcast. It's we can take advantage of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're immigrants. They don't know the language. They don't know who to go to. They don't know the country. So a lot of the perpetrators, who are committing crimes, right? Uh, who happen to be black, see this. Okay, well, this person doesn't have shit. I'm gonna go fucking jack them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but that's where the attitudes, like come from, right? So immigrants will probably teach that to the kids, and like, let's not go to to those areas. They have black people. I don't want to be around there. You know what I mean? Like that gets passed down to the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and for me, just a quick story, right? I remember when I must have been 5 years old, and my dad had obviously gone through his shit, with black folks. This is during the '92 riots in Watts, right? We went to a Toys R Us and we came out, and there was these three black teenagers who took our shit. They jacked our shit, and that was my first experience with black people. Just seeing them, like face to face. Because where I grew up, you didn't really see them. At least not a lot. And I remember that vividly, like when he took the bag for my brother, and like we're like, what the
You
fuck
guys
is
were
that?
looting?
No, dude, we went to go buy shit.
Oh, I thought you guys were. I was gonna say you guys were
No,
looting, so they looted off the looters.
no, bro. We went to go.
Oh,
We had no idea what was going on. Like my dad had no idea what was going on. Like we
oh,
went to
okay.
the store just to buy stuff,
Oh
and they came
shit.
out of the parking lot and took our shit. But then my dad came back. He went after them. He went
Oh
and then he
shit.
took and got the stuff back. Like,
Hey.
but that event, and then like just the events that follow a lot of the things. Like I remember a couple of years afterwards, one of my cousins who was up north in Sacramento,
Mm.
he was throwing up sword and shit, whatever. So I got jumped by some norteños and some fucking, and some of them were some black people too. So like all those events continue to add to the narrative. Like, is this true? Like, well, my dad's been telling me, like, is this really true? Like, you know.
Yeah.
So it shaped me too. Like just like with my experience with white people, like like man, like what the fuck, like so you become like very, very ethnocentric, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that happens a lot in areas where black people and raza, you know, are in constant contact, right? So for example, out here in South Central, you have a gang out here, and not so much now, probably back in the days too, like they were in constant contact with black people, right? So there was retaliation from the
Oh.
gangs, and they were attacking innocent black people, you
Mm.
know, because every time that an immigrant will get attacked by a black person, they saw it as a hate crime. So like, okay, we're gonna take out one of your own, like you mentioned in some of the your Instagram lives. It's like, you know, like we got to stop this shit because otherwise it's gonna get out of hand. So when we do see, you know, I think uh, the the attacks on street vendors, it's very easy to be like, you know what? There goes another black person attacking another Latino, Latina, whatever. Like, what the fuck? Why do they keep doing this, right? So I chosen not to promote that because it's not that. It could easily be that. It could easily be, you know, like you can easily be like, okay, it's a black person, you know, attacking a Latino. It's more complex than that. A lot of these kids who are doing this shit are silly now. They're doing it for fucking, you know, video likes on Instagram, right? They're doing it for shit. And but think about that though. What it takes for you to do that, to attack an innocent person, right? There's the deeper issues between you that makes you do go and attack somebody who is very innocent, who probably will never hurt anybody in their lives. So it makes you wonder, like, why? And I'm not excusing the behavior. Obviously, it's fucked up, you know. But I don't choose to see it as a hate crime. It's a individual who doesn't know how to behave, you know,
Mm.
and it happens to be black at this point. You know what I mean? Attacking the vendor. So we got to be careful how we also talk about that because if it gets in the wrong hands, like you're gonna have people who are gonna attack innocent black people, and it's just gonna be a never-ending cycle. You know what I mean?
Mm.
What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
man. You know, man, it's a lot, man. See, there's. I mean, I'm pretty sure black people, you know what I mean, they see us as like, because I mean, I'll talk to homies about, you know what I mean, how
Yeah.
homies that like that are pro raza and like, you know, choose not to have the lingo of black people and because like we have our own lingo, we have our
Yeah.
own slang, our own whatever, you know. So it's like, and I get it, and I get también why some of our people say the N word. I get it, you know. Uh, but we have a perspective of their community that they perhaps might not see it, and they have a
Mm.
perspective of our community that we perhaps might not see it. You know what I mean? So first of all, we got to take that into consideration of why they see us a certain way, why they see us, I mean, vulnerable. You know what I mean? I mean, they have to see us vulnerable for
Yeah.
them to go and attack our elder. I mean, I mean, I mean, I think overall, bro, because of the whole, I mean, they're black people are very religious too, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, since we, I mean, for the most part, you know, being Catholics and all that, and being told as a young kid, you know, to fear God and to have that fear of someone's gonna punish you, someone that's not physical is gonna punish you spiritually if you do bad things. And if you have that instilled in you as a kid, you tend to like think things through. You know what I mean? Because you're
Yeah.
like, as a kid, I'm saying as a kid, as an older dude, like, you know, you kind of like get to understand. Well, you know, it's more of my you know my choices. If I make a bad choice, I'm gonna get consequences. You know what I mean? It's more than just religion, but some of them are not taught that to have that fear of consequence. So they go about their lives, and I'm talking about both
Yeah.
races. You
Yeah.
know
Of
what I mean?
course.
Raza and black people, and because I think that like a lot of people have like, and I'm not saying for people to be more religious, but like, you know what I mean, just that spiritual awareness of karma, even just as simple as karma. You know what I mean? Um, that has a lot to do with it, I think too,
Hmm.
because it seems like it's more reckless. Where I mean, I really can't compare it, bro, because we never had social media before.
Yeah.
What if it was worse before, bro? We can't really say. And that's the thing, like just because we have the ability to record it and to shoot it to like thousands of people across the nation, and everyone can see it, and now everyone's like up in arms, like, oh shit, this is going on, this is too many times. And it's really been like what, no more than 10 times that we've seen it.
Mhm.
So that's, I mean, in the span of, you know, so many years, for us to only see it 10 times happen, I mean, give or take. But still, it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening where someone's attacking older, you know what I mean, older senior citizens, really.
Yeah.
Um, but then we go back to the past where our own raza is stealing from churches, breaking into churches and stealing money, you know what I mean, breaking into people's homes. I mean, as a kid, our fucking apartment was always getting broken into, not by black people, by our own fucking people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I mean, shit, it's just, it goes back to how they were raised. It goes back to where we're living. We're living in the fucking poor ass place. But it's believe people are gonna try to take advantage because they don't have any, they don't know any better and they don't have anything. So they want something. You know what I mean? Especially with me growing around gangs and shit. I seen gangsters with nice ass fucking cars, jewelry. I mean, they were always with fucking, you know, good looking women and shit like that. So that's attractive, bro.
Yeah.
Pretty attractive, where you can, you know, convince a youngster to be like, yo, go and do that real quick and look at what you can have. Come back to us, report back to us, and look at what you can have. All this shit that we have. So it's like it's a pretty fucking provocative approach to get any youngster to do any fucking stupid shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm assuming that's the same way with black people. Black people have some fucking harsh ass places where they live. You know what I mean? And I mean, cops are pretty fucked up to black people more so than Latinos, I think. And then, you know, in that circumstance, bro, like we have to like see all that. You know, we have to see all that and take it in. You know what I mean? Take it in and not just blame it on the whole race.
Yeah.
Because that's easy to do, bro. That's easy to do. That's easy to fucking say, oh, fuck that. Fuck a whole race, man. Fuck them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's easy to do that because that's kind of like the lazy way out. That's the lazy way to speculate. You know?
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, we don't like it when they do that to us. One of us fuck up,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? And it's like I'm not like that. The fuck? You know what I mean? What are you talking about? I'm not like that, you know? So it's like we gotta understand that shit. And that's why it's so important to keep that unity. Because I mean, shit, bro. Like we're living the same circumstances. You know, actually, I want to bring in also the Asian community because you know they have a lot to do with Mexico too, and the
Yep.
you know you know what I mean, coming through Mexico, and there was a lot of mixture with Asians. Yeah, so that them also they're a big part to who we are as a people. Um, that's why some of us look kind of Asian too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of that, bro.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, you're done?
yeah, bro. Yeah, it's just pretty much that. You know what I mean? That we all have something in common. That we all, you know what I mean? We have to really acknowledge that the fact that we all have you know something in common that you know we need to fucking understand that.
Yeah, and I think you made a lot of great points when it came to, you know, you talked about the gangs, you talked about uh youngsters and you know and provocative lifestyle, whatever. And you have to ask yourself, you know, like I said, if you're willing to do something like that to somebody who's really innocent, what does that say about you as a person? You know what I mean? Like how did you get to that point where you can attack a person who's innocent, you know, who's just trying to do their job, right?
Mm.
Uh, and it goes back to what we were talking about last week, you know, with criminal activity, right? With you know, with blacks and Latinos having, you know, high crime in their neighborhoods, right? And really, it's not even the whole neighborhood. It's just a few individuals, right,
Mm.
who are responsible for most of the fucking crime because, you know, yeah. So you know, you have to think about what makes you do something like that. What makes you, you know, if you have if your community acts like that on people that are innocent, like you have to think about why is it happening? You know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
That's and that like we go back to that, like why is it? And I mean the whole social media had a lot to do with it, bro. Because now I was checking in on we know how sometimes they have the challenges and shit,
yeah,
stupid shit for youngsters. I'm like, damn, like they had that one lip challenge that you put a cup to your lip or some shit or suck it or some or I don't know, I forgot what the fuck it was, but like that Jenner fucking thing. And then now they have a it's called a whip it for they use the ingredient that's on that's in the whip the whip it like the whipped cream.
the fuck,
They like inhale it or some shit like that, and it gets them a high or something like that. And that's just like people are actually dying off of that shit. And
fucking
I'm
kid,
like,
man.
fuck. And so I'm saying like just social media, bro.
Yeah,
It makes people stupid sometimes, bro. Even though like there's so much fucking shit you can learn online, bro. Like I ain't fucking around. Like I told my kids, like you know what? I want if you're gonna use a computer, okay, you can play your games, whatever, for like tops 2 hours, tops. Everything, any other time that I see you on the computer, I want to see you learning some shit, like doing something. Like I have them doing Duolingo, like learning another language and shit like that. Like you go on YouTube and learn a song with the piano. You know what I mean? Something to that
be
effect.
productive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something productive. You know what I mean? Or if you having problems with certain math, stuff. You know what I mean? Go online, YouTube, and see tutorials on how to do it. Whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But kids nowadays, if they aren't told to be using the internet wisely, they go on stupid mode, bro. Like they go and think that it's cool to do TikTok fucking challenges and TikTok shit that make people think that it's okay to do certain things and whatnot. And I think a lot of what these black youngsters were doing it and I'm more than sure because they were recording it on their fucking social
yeah.
media
That's what I'm saying.
while they were doing it
Yep,
as kind of like a funny, I don't give a fuck, thug life,
yep,
new generation thug life
yep,
type shit. You know what I mean?
yep.
And it becomes a thing for them. It becomes a thing to like even glorify, as
Yeah,
fucked up as that sounds. I mean, even glorifying that type of it becomes a movement, even you know what I mean? A movement of stupid shit like this.
yep.
That's what is that's the thing that we need to watch out for, bro.
Yeah, and like you said, you're gonna go and prey on the most vulnerable. I mean, you're not gonna
Mhm,
go attack a dude that's fucking, looking all thugged out and shit. I mean, because
mhm,
like I said, if you notice, most of the attacks are on immigrants.
mhm,
If you really want to, you know, get really detailed, I mean, a lot of these immigrants are probably native too. Like they're
mhm.
indigenous, from all parts of Latin America. So it goes back to really the beginning of like, when they used, the African slaves to
Mhm,
overpower or to intimidate the native people. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
history goes back and replays itself, right? But
Yeah.
um, yeah, man, it comes down to that, to like people not guiding you. Because when you're a kid, and if there's nobody there checking your ass, and you're gonna be doing some dumbass shit, you know, and and for the most part, and we're gonna get more into this next week, but parental guidance and more specifically father figure in your life, if you don't have one, then you're gonna be you're gonna get buck wild. I mean, you're gonna be doing some dumbass shit, and that's why a lot of our people and black people get into gangs, because I mean that's where you find that role model, that father
Mhm.
figure if you don't have it in your family, you know. And
Yeah.
then when you get really involved in that shit, then you go to jail, right? And then when you go to jail, those racist attitudes are they're amplified, right? Because now you can't be hanging out with, let's say your homie was black, you can't be hanging out with them in jail. If you go to the pen, I mean, you either hang out with the mafia, you hang out with Nuestra Familia, or
Yeah.
black, you hang out with the black guerrilla family, so
Yeah. And that's one of the citations that I noticed you put
yeah,
that having that growing or the culture within the prisons
yep,
and the divisions that you have to stick with your own and have that mindset like like I can't fuck with you because you're not a part of my own. But
exactly,
at this point, like all of that is bullshit because even in prison, Mexicans do transactions with white people with the AB, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and vice versa, like, you know what I mean? Like black people do freaking transactions with fucking, you know, other races, like, so there's no like code, I guess you could say, like things aren't, and I think they never were, bro.
Nah,
I think
no.
it was always an illusion that they were trying to give more so to the incoming crowd, to the fishes as they call them,
Yeah. Put in the
because they
work.
wanted, yeah, because they wanted to keep them blinded to what really was going on. What really was going on is money. That was what really what it's about. And I talked to older homies, bro, like, you know what I mean, like older sureños and stuff, like, and they have it to where now they understand. Now they're like, you know what, bro? Back in the day, I never heard no one talk about, you know what, colors ain't is really bullshit. You guys are all killing off each other for what? When all this money to get. There's all this money to get, and you guys are fucking up shit with colors. And that's the thing though. Older generation, they won't tell you that shit. They won't tell you, oh, you know what, stop doing that color shit.
Nah, they won't.
But they don't like to. I mean, they wouldn't put themselves in that position,
No.
but they'll send the little ones to fucking
Of
do it
course.
because, you know, it's like kill each other off. There's more money for me then.
Well, it's a corporation if you think about it. I mean, you know, it's
Yeah.
a huge organization. You know, the mafia. I mean, they have their ranking. You know, like, and if you're a youngster and you're trying to, you know, get a name for yourself, you know, you're gonna do whatever it takes to get up there. You know, to move up the ranking and shit. So, if it means killing a black person in jail, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes even killing a Mexican. I mean, you know, just because they're from north or from the south or whatever. You know, so all of that shit though goes back to the streets because they're the ones who run the gangs. You know, they're the ones that say, you know what, like, you guys can sell drugs here, you guys can't sell drugs here. You need to fucking put in work here. You know, go take care of this fool because, you know, they're no longer fucking with the gang. Like, and all that shit just continues to happen, you know, on the streets, and then goes back to prison. So, like you said, these attitudes, right, are ingrained in our minds, and especially if you're knee deep in that shit, bro. If you're like, if you've been to jail and just are just a fucking regular visitor there, I mean, like, you just are a lifer and shit, then you're not gonna give a fuck. So you're gonna use other people to do what it takes, you know, to continue your business, you know, even if it means, you know, like spreading hate like that. Hey, like, those motherfuckers don't, you know, like, don't fuck with them, you know, because they ain't one of us, you know. And but it goes back to really, for me, like our previous conversation with, you know, with victimization. Uh, Even like, you know, I guess you can call them, you know, like culture hustlers or race hustlers, you know, like how they say, you know, it's the white man's fault we're fucked up, you know, like they're teaching a generation, you know, to hate based on their own experiences, right? So when you start to escape from that mindset and really think about it for yourself and start to analyze it for yourself, and you realize, okay, well, it's just fucking people who have situations that are fucked up, you know, like, I mean, so if someone's 35 years old, 40 years old, and they're already fucking in their ways, I mean, it's really hard for them to change. But the youth, and that's why I work with youth, and those are the ones we could change. You know what I mean?
And I listen to and I watch the like YouTube platforms where they talk about like people that were fucking super deep into like the ranks of like mafias and shit like that. And there's this dude that I listen to. He goes by Gunners Collective. He talks about people in La Nuestra Familia that actually come on his show talking about, you know what, they put me in this position. And once I was there, once I landed in prison, no one was there anymore, like for me anymore. Like no one put money in my books. And these were people that have sworn to, like, if you get caught up, we're gonna back you up with, we're gonna, you know, feed your family, we're gonna do this and this and that. And none of that shit comes to fruition, you know what I mean? So I'm like, fuck, bro, like that's some bullshit, bro. Like they literally brainwashed this individual to think and to follow. And like it's just trippy, bro, to think about it. Like, because as youngsters, a lot of these people grew up saying, I'm not gonna listen to my folks, I'm not gonna listen to the school, I'm not gonna, but now you're you go into a gang and they're doing the same thing as your folks and the school was doing, which is giving you directions, giving you the,
Exactly.
commands and shit. But you wouldn't listen to them. And at the end of on the wrong tracks with your family because you chose this lifestyle, and you end up in prison for fucking life because of something that you got brainwashed to believe that it's a good thing for this fucking movement. You know what I mean? And sadly, bro, trying to link it up with black people, you know what I mean? They have the same. That's what I'm saying. We have that commonality of brainwashing our own people to do things for others, like to do things for self. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? And we have that commonality. That's why it's a cycle that's going to continue unless we put a stop to it. And I'm talking about stop to it in all genres of life, bro. When it comes to our people, and they have to do their part with their people, bro. We can't tell them their people to stop what the fuck their ignorant different aspects of, you know, when it comes to, you know, like when it comes to movies or fucking or music or any other of those things. We can't tell them to stop, but we can tell our own. We can influence our own to make them understand that it's a cycle that they're putting out there through influence, through social media, through music, through entertainment, through all kinds of fucking different aspects of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can do that for us. You
Yeah.
know?
And I know that a few weeks ago when you were really like, you know, pretty heated, I would say, with the whole street vendor shit, you made your own little, you know, I guess posters or whatever, you know, like, and
Forgot
obviously
about that.
it was to bring attention to the matter, you know.
Mhm.
But I think after what you said right now, I think it makes sense as to why they don't do that. You know,
Mhm.
like I think you wanted, you know, black people to be like, you know, like because there is obviously, you know, Raza that's involved in BLM. You know, like it's pretty
Mhm.
obvious. You know, they're out there promoting that. You know, and to each their own. I mean, like, uh, you know, if you want to march, cool. You know what I mean? Like that's your thing. But it's almost like you wanted that reciprocated. You wanted someone to march
Mhm.
with us and to call out the bullshit. You know, like you say, you know, like what the fuck, you know, like no one's saying shit. You know, like what's going on, you know. But I think you made a good point as to why they're not saying shit because, like you said, people are going to focus on their own shit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it's really hard for people to hold, uh, you know, each other accountable, especially
Mhm.
our own. You know, especially when you have, you know, issues like, you know, like, you know, police brutality or whatever. You don't want to focus on that because now it kind of it almost it feels like, to me at least, why I feel people are not going to speak up on that, especially people who are very passionate about it, is because it's gonna, you know, contradict their argument. You know, because their argument is, you know, like we're getting killed by cops, you know, like for no reason, right? But if you show them that video, it's like, well, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you behaving that way? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and people don't want to hear that shit. You know what I mean? So they don't want to bring that up because then it's going to contradict their whole argument, right? Well, it's not because they're killing innocent people; it's because motherfuckers not behaving correctly.
Mhm.
Talked about last week, you know, like uh, the stats don't back it up that they're just fucking hunting people for no reason, right? So,
Mhm.
because just trip out on this, right? Let's say that you know you see this shit happen. Somebody calls the cops show up, and then that person gets killed. The person
Mhm.
who's harassing the street vendor. Now it becomes a very complex situation because I mean, you can, if you just see it from the, oh, this person was killed because they were black, you know, you're completely ignoring the fact that this motherfucker was fucking harassing somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
regardless of what they are. So that's when it gets complex. And like I said, that's probably why I would say they don't talk about it. And also, like you said, it doesn't really affect them. You know, that's why you're not going to see Snoop Dogg talking about that, or Obama, or all these people you put up. It's not their issue. It's our
Mhm.
issue. So really,
Yeah.
it's up to us to take care of it. I mean, I wish that they would help out, but I don't expect them to, right? Just like I don't expect the government to help me out, or just like I don't expect white people to help me out. We got to take care of our own, right? And the way I would say, you know, and I've already seen it. I don't know if you saw it on the news recently. They're like getting together now. Like the vendors are like walking together.
Mhm.
There's
They
people,
do a they did a like a protest, right, or something like a
yeah,
march.
something like
Yeah.
that, yeah. So that's one way to do it. I mean, they're not gonna fuck with you if you have a shitload of
Yeah.
numbers, you know, like. Uh, but I think this is where we really need like the brown berets and I guess if you want to call them the Black Panthers too. I mean, but like for sure the Brown Berets to be out there patrolling. I mean, where the fuck you at?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're about that life, I mean, that's what the Brown Berets are supposed to do is patrol. I mean,
Yeah.
and just call the bull, not just the cops, just any kind of behavior that's negative that's affecting our communities. And you got to check people. And
Yeah.
maybe it's happening. I mean, maybe it's happening in neighborhoods that are predominantly black. Maybe that's why they're not there. But I mean, uh, that's my solution to that shit. Just like what, hey, like just or the other one. I mean, obviously that's gonna be a lot harder. Is that just to have a permit to carry a gun. Hope you don't get to that point, but if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't stop, like as an individual, I mean, because you could be robbed by anybody, not just blacks. You could be robbed by another Chicano, whatever. Like, and at any moment you could be, like be killed and shit. But
Yeah.
yeah, man.
But I wanted to add, bro, how you mentioned that, you know what I mean? What if the you call the cops on the black guy attacking the street vendor? But I think they would make it a big deal because again, they have more people, more organizations to back up black people. So that's why it'll
Yeah,
be a bigger thing because you know what I mean? They will put that emphasis on, pressuring the news, say something, or we're gonna like stop doing something for you guys, or I don't know, something that they'll make something happen basically. Something that we will never fucking get to do because we never fucking wanna unite. Like we don't
yeah,
wanna
yeah.
have that. But I wanted to explain like why I did that whole flyer thing or the posters on social media. So basically my thing was like kind of what pissed me off about the whole situation that they weren't saying shit because like of course they don't complain when Latinos pretty much what I mean made a lot of the those artists and shit by
Famous.
purchasing their fucking tracks and shit, their
Yeah,
music. You know what I mean?
yeah.
They don't complain when we do that for them, right? But
No.
like, of course not. But when it comes to like saying something about the people that backed you up, how about that? Like, I mean,
I get you.
where you at now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. Like, that's when it comes to like the Latinos in the music industry. Like, we were right next to them when hip hop
Yep,
started. You know what I mean?
yep.
Latinos and blacks were right next to each other and shit. And for it to be kind of like, nah, we're in the forefront, you guys are in the background.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole
Only
episode.
come out, yeah,
That's a whole episode too. We're gonna get into. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
all that shit that we get as non-black rappers. I mean, like I
yeah.
know for sure I got a lot growing up.
Oh
But
yeah,
I don't want to cut you off. But yeah, man, like
yeah,
I get you. Uh,
yeah.
if you're a consumer and you put somebody in a certain position, you should be able to. But I don't think these people are looking at the numbers. You know what I mean? Because if you really think about it, the majority of people who buy rap are white people.
There you
That's
go.
what it is. That's what
Yeah.
isn't there a line that Immortal Technique says? The majority of my consumers are, how the other color of talcum or some shit like that. I forgot how he says it, but I mean,
That's true though.
yeah, but yeah, man. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, like I said, I wish they would. I
Yeah.
wish that they would have an open mind and be like, you know what, like, yeah, we need to fucking back these fools. I mean, I'm sure there is people who are. I mean, not to say that nobody is backing us up, in that sense. Like I
Yeah.
said, as a matter of fact, when it first started happening, a lot of these kids, got checked by their black homies, in their hoods and shit, and they ended up fucking them up. The people who started doing that shit. So like, yeah, because they knew that if you keep doing that, and you keep recording it, it's gonna get into the wrong hands.
Mm-hmm.
And the veteranos, and just the OGs and shit got together and said, you know what, like we got to put a stop to this shit because if we don't, then it's gonna be a fucking race war, and we don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last thing you want. Because at the end of the day, it's gonna be innocent people who fucking die for that shit. It's
Yeah.
not even the individuals doing that because they're gonna get away with it, you
Yeah.
know. And so I'm glad that somebody spoke about it, because it's an issue. It is an issue uh, to not address it, but also because everyone who was pushing it, from people that I follow was like, like what the fuck, especially because it was right after the George Floyd case, and the justification for the people pushing it was like, like, well, this is why I don't support Black Lives Matter because like nobody gives a fuck about us. Okay,
Mm.
I understand that, but I mean that doesn't mean that you get to shit on somebody's fucking parade either. I mean,
Yeah.
like, that's your thing, and yeah, we are invisible, for the most part in media because I mean, uh, like you said, uh, uh for the most part, when people think about us, they think about the immigrant community, and the immigrant community doesn't really speak up, and even really like Chicanos and Chicanas, don't really. There is some, obviously. I mean, there is a lot. I would say not just some, but we're more conservative on that side. Like we're not really outlandish like that. We're not really like, okay, look at me, like, like we don't have, like I said, we don't have leaders who are speaking up for us like in that way. So it's more like, what, let me just do my thing under the radar, leave me alone, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Now, as for, I wanted to kind of bring this in, bro.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do some kind of pros and cons of why it's important to have that unity between Latinos and Blacks.
Okay.
So like the main pro that I see is that, like I said before, we both come from the same place pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And we can benefit to each other a lot because we can get into places that they can't because of a lot of us having that dual language and stuff.
Yep.
And they can get into places where we can't because of just many reasons with the fact that I said, like, that they have more pull as to being able to get into contact with people with bigger platforms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the effect of like putting some kind of message out there at a bigger, you know what I mean, thing. But now the cons, the cons really is the fact that, like, so this is it, bro. Like to be transparent, because I would like to be, because look, bro, like when we talk about those beatings or them like going up and beating up those street vendors.
Yeah.
They're talking some bullshit, bro.
I'm pretty sure they are.
They're like, look at this stupid Mexican. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, they're talking some bullshit, bro.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, bro, I like to be transparent because like let's really get to the nitty gritty, bro. And I like you said, it's gonna be people talking shit because of it, but that's really at the end of the day, bro. If you don't get to the nitty gritty and get to talk about how they're seeing some of our people and how we see some of their people, we're never gonna get to a fucking place where we're like, you know what? All right, they see us like this. Why? Is it because the media portrays us this way? Is it because you had experience with someone like this? Why do you believe this about us? You know what I mean? Like when it comes to like my parents would always say like pinches negros, bien pinches escandalosos, scandalous people.
Yeah.
My parents would say black people are scandalous people, and they seen that because of we never from TV.
Okay.
That's how I see it. We never lived around black people. Never. We've always been around Raza. So I'm assuming that's where they seen it. You know what I mean? Because I started thinking like, why the fuck do my parents think that way? You know what I mean? And so that and I'm not just saying my parents, like other people also say, you know what I mean? Like, oh, black people are scandalous people. Like they're loud. Yeah. They do things in a certain way that we might not do it. We might be more discreet, more like, you know what? Like, nah, I don't want to fucking let them see me. Like, whatever. But they're loud as fuck. And that's what that a lot of us got the thing of bumping the fucking stereo when we're driving and shit. Like I think that's a black thing, bro. That's a black thing that we got into our culture, bro.
I mean, that's part of being American. I mean, you grew up around different cultures and you adopt certain things from different cultures, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a black thing, but I mean, I would say that, I mean, you probably do see it, in black culture. I mean,
black culture,
usually, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I think you made again some great points. I mean, there is a lot of just when you say, that the whole, that they're just scandalous and shit. Your parents would say that, and that comes from, like again, culture. I mean, like culturally, immigrants are just not gonna really be speaking up a lot. They just want to fucking work. And I would say probably just really most immigrant communities are like that, because where I live, it's an Asian community, but most of them are immigrants, and it's funny because there's times where we go on walks And this is even pre-COVID. I mean, before the whole COVID thing, we'd go on walks, and there's this one guy who we always see, right? And in our custom, right, you see somebody, like at least you say, what's up, or whatever, or just like, or even if you don't, I mean, you just kind of get out of the way and shit. So one time I was walking with, well, actually, I wasn't walking this time. My wife and my daughter were walking together, and the guy was, coming towards them, and this fool tells him to move out of the way. He goes like this. He doesn't even talk to him. He just goes, right? And she got fucking pissed. She's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "What the fuck's up with this fool? Like, like, does he not know fucking manners? Like, why is he so rude to be saying some shit like that? But then again, like, that could be a cultural thing where like they, first of all, from my understanding, I mean, like, you're not supposed to look at Asian people in the eyes, at least from like China and stuff like that. That's disrespectful, So maybe when she made eye contact with him, trying to say hi, he took it as a disrespect. Like, this is a woman looking at me, like, why is she even in my way, whatever. I mean, I can be making all kinds of assumptions, but
Yeah.
but like that, her saying that he's rude, you know what I mean? Like, or I mean, her saying that he's rude, and then he's probably thinking she's rude because she's in the way. So because we have cultural differences, certain things, like we might see them as, okay, well, they're too loud, or they're being too rude, or too scandalous, because in our culture we don't do that. We don't speak loudly. I mean, like, but to them, they're not being rude. That's the way they speak. I mean, that's the way they
Yeah.
communicate. And obviously not everybody, but like, it's it's not considered yelling if we're talking to each other that way. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like, so that comes from, again, lack of exposure to it. Like, lack of cultural differences. So a lot of the problems are not even really racism. It's more cultural. We don't understand the culture. You know.
And that's the thing, bro. When we talk about it becoming a popular thing, bro, because, bro, like, tell me if you haven't seen Raza, especially Latinas, bro, doing this number right here. I'm talking to you. And I'm saying to you, like, clapping when they're fucking arguing, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a black culture, bro. And like, that's leaking to our people, bro. And like, that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of people that I've been talking to, they say, you know what, like, we gotta stay in our place.
Hmm.
We gotta stay in our place. Like, as fucked up as I may sound, bro, we all have our. See, that's because black people don't talk about what they hate about us, bro.
We don't know.
They may be hating the fact that we're copying them, bro.
Yeah.
We know. They may be hating the fact that our
Cultural
people are doing the same things, that having the same mannerism that they have, doing the same way, clapping when they're arguing, all that shit. You know what I mean? They may hate that, but they don't talk about it though, because maybe they don't want to offend us or whatever. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, just like the N word. I mean, that shit
Yeah,
is
that's
around like it's nothing now. I mean, like, you see it on Instagram. People just using it all the time. I mean, I'm like, yo, like, I mean, I never understood. I mean, I guess I kind of understand now, but I mean, in my neighborhood, that was a big no-no. You just didn't say it for so many reasons, and now it's like fucking kids 15 and this and that. It's like, yo, like, aside from the fact that even if I was a black person, I wouldn't use it, for a lot of reasons too. But aside from the fact that you don't even know the history behind it, but like, just like, you know, to me, it's just like, whenever I hear somebody who's not black use it, I'm just like, oh, it just makes me cringe.
yeah.
Like, shut the fuck up. Don't use that word. Like, I want to say that shit to them, like, kind of like, also, like we say, it's not our word. I mean, like, it's not your place to be using that word, like, uh, you don't know, you don't have the right to use it. I mean, I guess, you know, it's a very complex situation. I mean, like you said,
Yes.
you talked about this earlier, like, when you kind of had to pass because you grew up with black homies, so like they kind of
Yeah.
gave you a pass to use it, but you still didn't use it, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I've been called out a lot too. I mean, and I still, even though some people would say, you can use it, I'm like, I'm not gonna use it. I don't feel comfortable using it because I wouldn't feel genuine using it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how I grew up speaking. So I'm not gonna use it. And even though I have black ancestry, I mean, like, I'm still not gonna use it. Like, it's not something that I'm gonna use, but yeah, man, and I would argue that the word is kind of losing its meaning, obviously, because it's just being thrown around like it's, you know,
Yeah.
thing. But still, like, yeah, man, I hear what you're saying. The whole clapping thing.
Yeah, bro. And like I mentioned before, bro, like, I'm not, I mean, I have nothing against black people, bro. I'm just saying, like, I'm putting into it this way, bro, and saying what we as a collective, a lot of us feel this way and think this way. And if we can be straight up and be transparent about it and not be going around beating up our people or vice versa, us going and waiting for fucking older senior citizens coming out of the fucking church and beating them up for fucking whatever reason, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? But like, it's not about because we feel a certain way for a certain race to go and fuck them up. Like if we can be transparent and talk about it and be like, you know what, it could be that they don't like it because of this. They don't like us because of that. But if they don't want to talk about it because we might get offended, they're already offending us by fucking us up. So how much more offensive can they be? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. What don't you like about us? What do you think that is like dividing us? I mean, shit. That I haven't seen, and I listen to, and I follow a lot of black, entrepreneurs and people that have a following when it comes to like speaking up about the black communities and
Yeah.
for them, because I follow them because I noticed that with our people, we're like 10 steps behind, bro, when it comes to having that innovative mentality, bro. I follow a lot of our own raza too when it comes to like, you know what I mean? Like talking about, how can we get better as a people? How can we do this? How we do that? And black people are coming up with so many more innovative ideas to implement into their own structure that we are not. And not to say that I'm trying to jack their fucking ideas, because I try to be in their commenting shit, like
Yeah.
in the brown community where we're dealing with this, we're dealing with that, and we kind of like I have that dialogue with them. You know what I mean? Because I want to be able to like have them understand that we're not just there on the sidelines being like okay, there goes black people, like they have their own mission. Like I want to make it seem like what I mean, like we're there for you, and we expect for you guys to be back, what I mean, there for us in our time of need, you know what I mean? That kind of, dialogue. But when it comes to that, bro, we need to be transparent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to be transparent and really talk about our issues, our what's dividing us,
I
you know?
think there's two ways to go about that. When the whole collaboration thing happens, I mean, obviously one is learning the history and uh, seeing how connected we are, but the other one, which would be almost, uh, I guess, the complete opposite, is just if you see somebody and you like what they're doing, regardless of who they are, just hit them up or just try to collaborate with them, and you as a person who maybe create something, be open to anybody, because I know some people just want to help out black people, or some people
Mm-hmm.
just want to help out Latinos or whatever, and I get that, it's fine, you have a priority, but the only way to collaborate with somebody who's not your culture, whatever, is to see it that way. You know what, like, yeah, I'm just a person, I'm helping anybody out, doesn't matter who they are,
Yeah.
white, Latino, Asian, right? And we're so far from that, because we not be like, uh, we all have our own issues,
Yeah.
and it's like a double-edged sword. You want to help out your people, but at the same time, I mean, uh, if you want to advance in certain ways, and you know you can't do it because you're stuck helping these people out over here and shit,
Mhm.
then you're like, man, what do I do? Like, how do I get there? Um, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, man. I mean, that's been my approach lately. I mean, like, uh, I'm not saying the colorblind approach is not another approach. I mean, like, I don't see it that way. It's like, okay, well, you happen to be black or you happen to be white, Asian, cool. That's part of who your identity is. But like, I'm not gonna hang out with you because of that, or I'm not gonna be looking out for a specific type of friend or whatever. You know, uh, just because of that. I mean, if you're a cool person, you're a cool person. If you're
Yeah.
not, then I'm not gonna fuck with you. You could be Raza, you could be a fucking horrible person. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna fuck with you. You know what I mean? But the last thing I wanted to say before we end the podcast today is one thing we cannot do this, is play oppression Olympics, because
Mm.
we do this a lot with our people. We say, well, we went through this and they went through that and we went through this. It's like, nah, like, that's not gonna get you anywhere. Like, you're pretty much, playing, okay, who's the most victimized, and why do you want to do that? Like, what's the
Mhm.
point? every time I engage in conversations where I challenge people who are ethnocentric like that, are just about their own culture, they're like, oh, like you're tone deaf, like you're you don't know what it's you don't know what it's like to be black or whatever. You don't know what it's like to be whatever. Like, and I'm like, okay, like I don't, but that doesn't mean that I can't help, or it doesn't mean that like be an ally or whatever and shit. Because when we get to that point, you don't really want help. You just want superiority. To be honest, that's the way I see it. And again, I'm not gonna fuck with you if that's your mindset. I don't give a shit who you are. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my
Oh
final
yeah,
thoughts on that.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
My final thoughts, bro, is at the end of the day, no word really matters to the person that doesn't really want to change
There you go.
or that doesn't want unity, that doesn't want to, I mean, like, be good with other races. At the end of the day, experiences, trump any other, any word that you can say to that person.
That's right.
Like, what I mean, that those youngsters that did those things to those street vendors, they will realize one day when they're older, like, fuck, the
Hopefully.
fuck was I doing those things? You know what I mean? And it's not their fault. It's their guidance. The person that was supposed to be guiding them was not guiding them. It was their homies that were probably misguided also.
Yep.
It was maybe if they were in a gang, the older homies were not guiding them also,
Exactly.
fucking them up with, what I mean, with other shit. It was social media that's fucking up our youngsters. So, like I said, experiences will change a person more than any conversation,
Exactly.
what I mean? So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean that's for me. That's what it took. I mean, I had so many negative experiences with black people growing up. That like I said, at one point I was a brown supremacist. It was only about me, and it was a really bad place to be in because I mean, like, um, everything felt like I was gonna get into a fight. Everything felt like, okay, I need to prove myself to to for my pride, for my people. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and it was a fucked up way to live. I mean, and also it wasn't until I got to college and really got exposed to more cultures, because where I went to school it was very diverse. It's not just like there was like people from India, there was white people, obviously there was Asians, black people, you know immigrants, non-immigrants, and that really helped shape me, like as far as my mindset, when I began to change in that way. So that was huge for me to be able to do that. But a good segue into what you talked about, right? You mentioned how what these kids
Guidance.
do, yeah, like the single parent, situation, which is going to be the next episode, which is
Perfect
probably my
segue.
my favorite episode. Uh, I know I said this one was one of my favorite too, but that one I think is a huge factor into why the black and brown community have a lot of issues. You know, I don't want to get into too many details, but man, like some of the statistics that I'm gonna bring up, next week are just gonna be mind blowing. Like you're gonna be like, wow, now it makes fucking sense,
Mm-hmm.
as to why we have so many fucking issues. So, um, yeah, man, that's you definitely don't want to miss that episode. But any shout outs before we take off, man?
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, to you, bro,
Oh
because
shit.
you keep bringing those up. That's the site it works, man. That shit. I mean, nothing but facts, bro. I mean, the last one, the one about the Raza killing Raza, more the statistic with that shit blew my mind, bro. That shit blew my mind. I was like, fuck, man, like we have no excuse, man. We really have no excuse
Exactly.
like to fucking blame anyone. You know what I mean? We're doing ourselves. Um, so yeah, man, I want to thank you for having that. Being on point with that, bro. Um, there's an event called a Day of Unity. If anyone watching this episode, it's run by Louis. He has a product called Sin Manchas concentrate, I believe it's called, the whole name to that product. Um, so yeah, apart from that event, you know what I mean. So his product is on point. If you're gonna, you know what I mean. That's just an all-purpose cleaner. You know what I mean. Louis doing this thing. He has that he goes into lives on Instagram with that good platica. You know what I mean? He's all for the he's all for us brown people. You know, Raza.
Sure.
And I also want to thank shout out Marco with Carnalismo clothing brand. You know, top of the line clothing. You know, representing the Raza or cultura. He's a painter. You know, he has his own landscaping business. The homie he's an entrepreneur. You know, and someone to look up to. Porque there's a lot of our people, you know, are, you know what I mean, you know, we need to have someone to look up to in terms of how we can get things done, you know, and you know, and I'm pretty sure if you send him a message of maybe you want to start your own business or whatever, I'm pretty sure he'll respond, you know, and get you some pointers onto how to get started on whatever. And just people like that we need to keep a close circle with, you know, and try to become a better us every day, you know. And anyone doing podcasts out there, you know, keep on doing that good work, you know, because it's a dialogue that helps too. Like I said, like experiences, of course, is gonna be the best thing, but dialogue is the next best thing. You know what I mean? Dialogue, having that breaking barriers through dialogue. But yeah, man.
All right. Well, thank you for the shout out. You know, it would be a lot harder to do this alone, just spitting out facts with nobody, you know, to interact with them. You know, so it makes it easier to bring the stuff out. And I'm glad you engage, and you know, uh, I'm glad you learn from it too. You know, because I mean, it's mainly for the listeners, but I'm glad that you also, you know, pick up some stuff, and
Yeah.
that's why I mean, I don't know if people know this, but you know, the information that I do have, I mean, we don't talk about it prior. I mean, we have the agenda, what we're going to talk about, but the
Mm-hmm.
details, like he doesn't know about them. So, you know, like he's also learning in the process.
Yep.
So I'm glad that Brown is able to, you know, to do that. But we do it that way because we want it to be a fluid conversation and not have any previous ideas or previous
Yeah.
biases, just to keep it going, you know. And like I said, I like the way we bounce off each other, you know. And I usually say something, and you know you have your own 2 cents on it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it works out perfectly. My shout outs are going to be again to the listeners who have been actively listening, uh, even those who don't agree, you know. Uh, Continue to make those comments on YouTube, Instagram, uh, you know, promote the podcast. I know it's long. I know it's long and shit. I'm gonna do my best to make these episodes, you know, give you some smaller clips just so you can get the main idea. But um, really respect those who sit down with the whole episode and really, like, you know, give me the 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and yeah, man, I mean, I'm probably gonna go to that event too. I won't be rapping though. I'm just gonna be there just to fucking, you know, just checking it out. It's been a
Yeah.
minute for me when it comes to the hip hop world. I mean, I haven't really recorded anything recently, you know, but maybe you'll, you know, spark it up again. You know, maybe you'll fucking motivate me to get back out there. But
Yeah.
nah, man, just yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. And you know, once again, you know, it's Raza Stand Podcast. Take a stand to
I
understand.
understand. Yep, that's what's up. So once again, the 17th of April, a day of unity. It's gonna be in Santa Ana, California, and not sure yet where location, but I'll keep you guys posted. Check the Instagram, check the Facebook. It'll be on there. Raza, this is Brown. Otro episode of Raza Stand. Take a stand to understand, Raza. Peace.
Peace out.